Good day, YouTubers. This is Captain Hal, 1947, back again with one of my old guns. I did a review, partial review, on this particular gun, and today I want to go in more detail about it. I did it along with two other guns. This is a Mossberg model 42 MB. It was a training rifle used in World War II by the British. The original gun was designed in 1935 and was put out by Mossberg as the 42. In 1939, in fall of 1939, they designed and put on this particular Mangler stock along with two other guns, the 46 and 51 models. They all had the nomenclature with an M on it. And with the war coming about, the British were in dire needs in early 1940 and 41 for any kind of weapon for training purposes. And inasmuch as Mossberg had a weapon that looks somewhat like British Enfield, operates with a bolt. It has a magazine. The gun was just perfect for their needs. And it was, I guess, fairly inexpensive at that time. The original signature for a contract was in June of 1941. And this gun was made up through approximately middle of 1943. During that time, 46,000 were manufactured and supplied to Britain in most cases. Towards the end of the contract, a few of them stayed here and did not go to Britain. There are several other weapons that are like this, some of them even having a 42 on it, but unless it has the United States property located on the barrel and the receiver, it's not one that was originally designed and built for the British. This here 22 weighs about 7.5 pounds, and the original ones had not only a peep sight, but a buckhorn sight here. That was later removed because the military wanted the recruits to learn how to use the peep sight. The original sight that was on this gun was not satisfactory to the British, and they later changed it over to a Parker Hale sight, and they later came back into the country with that particular sight on it. The original gun had a metal butt plate with a trap door on it, and the stock had been milled out to receive and hold an extra magazine. Towards the end of the contract in 1943, they decided to drop the metal butt plate and went to a plastic butt plate that this gun has. This gun, it was one of the last portion of the four contracts that were for firearms supplied to the British. This one never went to Britain because it has none of the proof marks that would be located in this area for the government, where they accepted the weapon, and it also would have a proof mark as to which branch of the service it had been assigned to. This one was my father's gun, and I'm not sure how he got it, except he was in something called the Home Guard here in Maryland, and I believe he used it while he was in that particular outfit. It has his name located inside the sling, and the sling is an original sling, military style, which has 19 or 43 on it, which is the year that this sling was manufactured. I believe one of the reasons they went over to a plastic butt plate was due to the fact that I think they may have had some problems with the little trap door getting broken off, because I've seen a lot of them for sale on eBay, and often they don't have the trap door. So I'm thinking, it's probably one of the problems, and they went over to the plastic. These Mossbergs have a plastic trigger guard also, and they are, some people call them cheap, but I think it's kind of neat. And they're very, have a nice grip to them when you grab it. It'll put your fingers in the right place for squeezing the trigger. If you were to find one of these weapons, you look to find out if it has a serial number. Now, there were some, the first 2,500 had no serial number. There was such a need for weapons at the time, and Mossberg was not set up to put serial numbers on any of their guns, that the first 2,500 were accepted and sent on to England. After that, starting with 2501, they all have serial numbers on them. So if you ever run across one of these weapons and it's less than 2,500, it's a fake. If you find one of these weapons, and there are some around, there are a number of things that you'll find that is probably missing. First thing is the hood for the sight. It often is lost. The other thing that is often missing is this little screw that was put into the magazine so that it will accept shorts. This was the first magazine that was designed by Mossberg, by any gun manufacturer, that could accept shorts, longs, and long rifles. These are available today, and you can find them if you have, and this particular magazine fits a number of the old Mossbergs that were designed. You can also get the hoods for the front sight. The neat thing about these old front sights is they have 4 apertures in there. This one here, one of the apertures is broken off, but you can remove the hood and flip up the different apertures. You have a short post, a long post, a lollipop, and I think they call it a ghost ring sight, front sight. This gun has had the rear sights replaced. The original sights, it either was broken or was missing some parts. I'm not sure which, but in the early 60s, my father went to a hardware store and had it replaced. But it is a Mossberg. It's an S130, which is one of the newer sights that were later on adapted for this gun when they replaced one of the 100, which was the original sight that was on here. Another part that you may find missing is this hood or this cover that is on the bolt. I think some of them have been taken off due to the fact that people have added scopes onto it, and it may have gotten in the way with the mounts. I'm not sure, but a lot of times that may be the case. These guns were sent over to Britain, and they were returned to the United States in after the war for up to about 10 years. A company by the name of Seaborn Traders out of Los Angeles, California, bought a bunch of these weapons on surplus and sporterized them by removing the front stock and band here, sanding down the front portion of the stock here, refinishing the whole gun, and sold it for $21.95 to the general public. The original weapon that was supplied to the government cost $10, and the United States paid $9.35, and Britain paid 65 cents. So that's how things were back then for Lend-Lease. They later increased the price when this gun was made, it cost $13.49 to produce, or to the government. Some of the things it also has, it has a set of sling swivels here that can be removed by just pulling up this little tab and turning it 90 degrees. It'll slip straight at. Mossberg came up with this design stock, and they did something clever to keep their prices down, because Mossberg was always known as a moderately priced or less expensive firearm. Instead of getting a piece of wood that was the total length of this stock, they had two different pieces. They probably bought a piece that was about 3 foot long, which they milled into this particular portion, and then they had another piece, which was probably 1 foot pieces or whatever, that they milled into here. So they're not out of the same piece of wood, they're different. But that was one way to keep down their price. And this gun was produced up till the end of '43. The government then went to what it was called the 44 US, which was the same internal parts as this gun, except it had the shorter stock, and it was supplied to the United States government, Navy, Coast Guard, and other military outlets to be a training gun for them, and stayed in the arsenals and up until more recent years. I think there may even be some in some of the different arsenals around. At least in the mid 90s or mid 80s, there were some. The overall, this weapon is in pretty good shape. I've re-varnished or put tongue oil on the wood. It's missing, has a few places where the bluing has come off, but overall it's all the original bluing. So it's a nice weapon. It has a lot of history to it, and it's something that it's got not only history, United States history, but it's my family's history too. I don't know too much more about it except my father had it, and I assume he was in this, like I said, Home Guard. I know in October, I believe, of '43, he went to the United States Marine Corps, which he wouldn't need this, and he did not get this from them. They had other weapons. So this here is what I call our family heirloom, and it is a neat old gun. There are some out there, and these are getting a little bit more pricier now because they are a kind of a collector's item. So if you find one, give it a second look in a gun show or something, and if it's one that has the United States property on it, it is worth a little bit more than one of the other guns that doesn't have that particular stamping on it. So if you have any other questions or comments, please write. Thank you.